Well, good evening. My name is Perry Ann Boring. I'm the founder and the president of the Chamber of Digital Commerce. We're the world's largest trade association that represents the blockchain industry. And our mandate is to promote the acceptance and use of blockchain technology. Now, when we first launched the Chamber just over 2 years ago, there was a lot of skepticism towards Bitcoin and blockchain, and we've made a lot of progress in DC through our work educating policymakers and regulators about the potential benefits that this technology holds. And it's been a very eventful year for the Chamber. In March, we hosted the DC Blockchain Summit. This was at Georgetown University. It was a sold-out event, standing room only, much like tonight. This was the first event in history where household names like IBM, Microsoft, USAA, Citi, Deloitte, PwC, NASDAQ, and many more all spoke publicly about their work in blockchain. That same month, we also testified in front of Congress at the House Energy and Commerce blockchain hearing. That hearing led to the passage of House Resolution 835, and that was the first congressional resolution with supportive language for blockchain technology just this year. And then in June, we had the pleasure of leading the blockchain discussions at the Federal Reserve, the IMF, and the World Bank's annual conference, where we presented to over 90 central banks from around the world about blockchain technology. And then we also participated in the White House FinTech Summit. So we have reached many different interesting offices in DC to talk about the potential benefit of blockchain. Now, above and beyond these events, we've also launched several keystone initiatives on behalf of our members, including the Blockchain Alliance, which Alan Cohen from SEPTO is here, who is helping organize that, which is our initiative that works with law enforcement agencies. We have law enforcement agencies and departments from all around the world who participate in that. Earlier this summer, we also launched the Smart Contracts Alliance, and we even have a state working group. And that group spearheaded the passage of the nation's first activities-based blockchain legislation that was in North Carolina, and the bill's sponsor was Representative Stephen Ross, and his aide Laura is here, who came all the way in from Raleigh to be with us tonight, so thanks, Laura. So we've accomplished so much, but we still have a lot of work to do in order to allow this new technology frontier to thrive, and we're just getting started. So I'd like to welcome you all to the DC Blockchain Center. So we launched the DC Blockchain Center in partnership with 1776. They're a global technology incubator, and isn't this an amazing space? So we're sitting at the intersection of government, technology, and entrepreneurship, which makes for a very powerful recipe to turn ideas into business and to help transform the global financial system and government with much needed transparency and financial sovereignty. Admittedly, these are very audacious goals. However, we're not here to make small plans. So to get the engine started, this community, it will need a community here at 1776, a community in DC, across the nation and around the world. And so to turn these aspirations into reality, the DC Blockchain Center is here to help this town of policymakers, regulators, technologists, and entrepreneurs come together, collaborate, and help build out the future of blockchain. So before I pass the baton, I just want to recognize our founding partners of the DC Blockchain Center. First Block, both the co-founders, Matthew Roszak and Jeff Garzik, are here. Thank you so much. They're also... Block is also a member of our executive committee, so thank you, both of you, for your continued support of the Chamber and the DC Blockchain Center. Also, Perkins Coie is also one of the founding partners of the DC Blockchain Center, and Perkins has been an incredible legal resource for the Chamber, and Adrian Fenty he just texted me, actually this might be him right now, saying he just landed at Dulles and he's trying to get here. But Adrian will be here shortly on behalf of Perkins. He's the 6th mayor of DC, so very appropriate for him to join us today. He served as mayor in DC from 2007 and 2011, so thank you, Perkins, for being one of our founding partners here as well. And lastly, would also like to recognize Georgetown University's Center for Financial Markets and Policy, and their executive, John Jacobs, the executive director, is here as well. So John, you have been an incredible resource and piece of support for the Chamber, and thank you very much for being here and for being so supportive of our work with the Chamber. All right, so up next, I would like to introduce Representative David Schweikert. He's a member of Congress from Arizona, and he is one of blockchain's greatest advocates on Capitol Hill, and he even brought his own special guest.
As I've learned is when I'm behind a microphone, if it's not going well, I just hold her up. Hey, do I have any folks in here that actually write code or actually do theoretical on product? Why would you care about hanging out with my kind? Can I walk you through a scenario? Yes, I know it's tasty. Everything goes straight to the mouth. Let's actually do 30 seconds on why you have to play in this town, even though I know playing with my kind can be a bit creepy. Let's say one of you comes up with a way where you're going to go walk into some county and say, we're going to take all your property records and we're going to put them on a distributive ledger. So now when someone wants a title report, boom, we have it. It's documented. We can see the history. We can see who's touched it. Just a classic, simple layout, right? Okay. Can anyone walk through all the policy problems with that? You want to get a loan. Is it going to be a qualifying loan if it had a blockchain certified title instead of an abstract or a typical title company insurance? How about if you wanted to securitize that debt? Is that debt qualified under the reps and warrants underneath that loan and in the securitization? If you start to think about all the points where if you're going to create a revolutionary technology that changes documentation, changes how you flow ownership, changes all these things, you're going to be shocked at the number of points within the statutes, within the regulations, we need to change and bring into this century. If you have time, we have someone in our office that this is all we talk about. We would love to do a session, just sit here. I drink excessive amounts of coffee, so I could be in the middle of the night, and just go over different projects you're working on. And then my job is to break your heart, with different things where I see within the regulatory state, within the statutory, and how we need to change things. But also understand, if you're also writing that code, building a business model, and you also know on the horizon there's going to be a policy shift, a policy change, that makes you the first one in. Love to do that with you because I genuinely believe we can show you models coming out of our office, and we already have 5 pieces of legislation that will weave in smart contracts, distributive ledger into the Uniform Commercial Code of the United States. We're already talking to a number of states to make sure they weave it into theirs. And that's a big deal. So, all right. Can I take you with me wherever I speak? All right. And now for the applause part.
All right, thank you, Congressman Schweikert. Next, I would like to introduce you to Commissioner Giancarlo. Commissioner Giancarlo has been a thought leader at the CFTC with respect to Bitcoin and blockchain technologies, and to a large extent has allowed this technology an ecosystem to thrive even through its most formative years. So Commissioner, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to follow David Schweikert. As many of you know, he's probably the most tech-savvy representative on the Hill. But what I learned tonight, he's also pretty savvy with the child as well. When he came in, we were standing out in the hall, and Perry Ann came over and said, "Get ready to go." And he said, "Okay, but I just need to change a diaper first." Pretty cool. And I want to thank Perry Ann and the Chamber of Digital Commerce in 1776 for inviting me to speak to you this evening. This event could not be more timely. As you know, there's a growing buzz here in Washington around blockchain technology. But underlying that buzz is a really more serious discussion about the right role for the federal government in encouraging and fostering fintech innovation. And some thoughtful policymakers are hearkening back to the bipartisan work that was done in the 1990s between a Republican Congress and a Democrat White House that supported a first do no harm approach to the regulatory underpinnings of the internet. And some are proposing that same enlightened approach to blockchain specifically and fintech generally. Last week, as some of you may know, Congressman McHenry of North Carolina introduced the Financial Services Innovation Act of 2016. And that bill would establish a financial service innovation office at each of the financial market regulators that would work to support fintech innovation. And yesterday, Representatives Mulvaney and Polis announced the formation of a bipartisan congressional blockchain caucus to help shape public policy. And members of the caucus include Mr. McHenry and also David Schweikert, who spoke with us earlier. But Congress is not alone in getting ahead of this. A few of us on the federal agency regulatory side have also raised our voices. And I want to talk to you just a few minutes about that. Last week, I spoke to the American Enterprise Institute and outlined a new and forward-looking agenda for fintech innovation, an agenda that supports America's vital national interest in maintaining the world's deepest, most durable, most vibrant capital and risk transfer markets in this new algorithmic digital world of the 21st century. And my agenda has 5 steps: standing up for intellectual property, repurposing analog rules for a digital age, unburdening the U.S. economy, championing American markets, and most importantly, embracing innovation. And it's that embracing innovation that we're here tonight to talk about. It means a new approach to technological change that means that our rules must first do no harm to innovation, especially blockchain. And it means regulators must take affirmative steps to promote American innovation, such as hiring tech-savvy regulatory staff who speak the language of fintech. And it means giving fintech firms breathing room to develop without immediately running foul of regulations. It means participating with them in commercial fintech experiments and listening and learning how to adapt old rules for technological advances. And it means collaborating with fintech innovators in new beta tests and experiments. The benefit of this approach is clear for innovators. But what may be less obvious is its benefit to regulators. We regulators must engage in a constant and evolving dialogue with innovators precisely because we need to understand the impact that innovation is having on the very marketplaces we are charged to supervise. We must partner with innovators, experiment with them, learn from them, and innovate alongside them if we're ever to keep pace with the digitization of 21st century markets and to protect the 21st century market participants. Which brings us to tonight's event. Blockchain technology holds the promise of an enormous advance in the ability of regulators to analyze trading data, understand financial and operational risk, and oversee healthier and more durable markets. It's imperative that we open wider our agency doors and regulatory minds to begin to understand it now. And the DC Blockchain Center is a crucially important first step in that mission. The center will help policymakers see the potential benefits of blockchain technology, not just for the industry, but also for government to fulfill its duties. And the center will help policymakers create a legal and regulatory framework for blockchain that fosters American innovation, jobs, and investment. It's time to enable investors, innovators, and job creators to drive the U.S. economy back to strong growth and prosperity. And it's time to ensure, thank you, that our markets remain the world's deepest, most durable, and most vibrant risk transfer markets in the algorithmic digital world of the 21st century. And it's also time to cut that ribbon and open the DC Blockchain Center. So So my hearty congratulations to all of you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Giancarlo. Up next, we have a very special speaker from within the blockchain community, Jeff Garzik. He's one of the blockchain industry's most respected technologists. He spent over a decade at Red Hat, and he's also a Bitcoin core developer. He recently co-founded Block to bridge the technology for enterprise customers. So Jeff, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks a lot. It's very much in the evolution of this space that we're opening the DC Blockchain Center. When I first got involved in Bitcoin in July of 2010, I read a News for Nerds website, talked about a digital currency. I said, what in the world is this? This is surely impossible. Downloaded it. It was open source, open book. As an engineer, you can study it, understand it, and I proved to myself that it works. Now, 6 years later, we can see where Bitcoin is. Bitcoin has blossomed into blockchain. And there are so many fascinating projects that when I first got into this space with hair down to my bum, the standard long-haired engineer, that I never expect to see. But one of the things that has been a recurring theme over and over again is that, and this is part of my stock block sales pitch, the tech is the easy part. I know that, you know, there probably the number of cryptographers in this room, we can probably count on one finger, but the tech really is the easy part when it comes to changing people's lives, changing people's business processes, changing how you transfer value, disintermediating banks, disintermediating counterparty relationships. All of that has consumer protection aspects, legal aspects, regulatory aspects, and that has touch points in almost every industry and almost every government. Over and above that, some of the interesting things about blockchain are blockchain itself. As we describe in our presentations, one of the key aspects of blockchain, something we call trust shifting. And that is the concept whereby you trust your counterparty less, you trust the network a bit more. And that opens up whole new vistas for letting the Bitcoin blockchain, a registry blockchain, etc., be this neutral ground where multiple parties can meet, even competitors, exchange value, execute smart contracts, and really advance civilization, advance the world. One of the very gratifying, I guess I would say, comments that I heard several months ago, Secretary of Commerce Pritzker was at the White House FinTech Summit, and she recognized quite rightly that tech always leads regulation. Tech is always ahead of regulation. That's just the nature of the business. And so if it's always trailing, we have a structural problem of how do we give space to these innovators so that you don't have to, say, obtain 51 licenses, 50 states plus federal, to simply start your own business. You need, like in Singapore, a regulatory sandbox where you can carve out, let's say, 6 months and no more than $10 million under management, and you can conduct some experiments which might be outside current regulation, but you're looping in with regulators early and often and helping them shape the shape of innovation and regulation in that country. And so that sort of regulatory experimentation, regulatory sandboxing is something that's going to be incredibly valuable in every country in the world. And I encourage everyone in this room to make America one of those places where we can innovate very rapidly. We want to be this font of innovation for the world, not only in blockchain, but in digital identity, smart contracts, cryptocurrencies. And when we put all that together, it's going to be something that's very positive for the world. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Garzik. Okay, and next I'd like to introduce you to Brittany Hyde. Am I saying that right? Hyde. 1776, you're in their headquarters, and they're one of the world's leading technology incubators. They do have locations throughout the United States and other jurisdictions around the world. Brittany, we're incredibly thankful to you and to Donna and Evan for your support, for providing us the platform to make all of this possible today. So thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for everyone being here tonight. I'm so happy to welcome you to our space and happy that you guys are learning what incubators are. I also want to thank the Chamber of Digital Commerce for opening up the DC Blockchain Center here. It couldn't be a better time to do so. And we're not only excited to work with you guys on the regulatory issues in the future and policy work, but also to help to integrate blockchain technology into the many startups at 1776. So 1776 is an incubator and venture fund, and we're really focused on fostering entrepreneurship in areas of great global challenges like healthcare, education, fintech, all of these things that we've traditionally relied on governments to provide for us, but are increasingly being provided by entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs are finding better, faster, cheaper ways to provide these things to people around the world and increase access to critical services. So you guys can see how blockchain is going to become a big part of those things as data becomes more dispersed and more available everywhere. So this is super, super exciting for us. I remember we started 1776 in January of 2013, and that was right during the Bitcoin's first PR moment around Cyprus and Bitcoin spiking and all this stuff, when that really grabbed our attention. And since then, we've really been thinking about how can that be applied to the technology and the innovations with our entrepreneurs that we're working with. So anyways, to sum up, welcome to all of you. I hope you enjoy your time here, and hope that we all work together in the future with the center. So thank you.
All right, and lastly, I'd like to introduce you to the chairman of the Chamber of Digital Commerce, Matthew Rozak, who's also the chairman and co-founder of Block, to lead us in the ribbon cutting.
Thanks, Marianne. So I was on a panel a couple months ago in San Francisco at the Churchill Club, and the moderator asked, describe blockchain in 140 characters or less, like a tweet, right? And it was myself, Blythe Masters, Laura Shin from Forbes, and so I was like the token male on the panel, which was interesting in this ecosystem. And I was trying to think through like how to respond to that, and everybody gave a very good technical answer. And my answer was, blockchain is a journey. It's not a technology, it's not a product, it's a journey. We're building out the layers of this new technology frontier every day, right in front of our eyes, and it's an exciting time. And what a better way to start the journey than the DC Blockchain Center. And so first order of business in the DC Blockchain Center is to make the first Bitcoin transaction. And so this is a physical Bitcoin. This is a Kialara coin. I'd love to do a digital version of this, but anyway, I presented one of these to Richard Branson and to Bill Clinton, and I'd like to ask Perrianne to come up on the stage, and I'd like to present this to you and say congratulations. Join me. Okay, and now let's adjourn to the ribbon cutting over here to the back right.
But again, thanks everyone for being here at the launch of the DC Blockchain Center. It's incredibly exciting to us to further the dialogue with regulators, with policymakers, with the DC community, and to bring more technologists and entrepreneurs and innovators into the nation's capital.
Studio count.